Hi everyone, it's Amy Allen again from Senploy. I hope you enjoyed our introductory vlog with Steph Yates last week. And we're now on to week 2 with our Butterfly Princess. And today we're going to explore Steph's views on gaining an education and her experiences along that journey. So we'll look into what Steph's education was and how support workers helped her to become the independent person that she is today, amongst other insightful areas of interest. So over to you, Steph. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Hi everyone again, and thanks for tuning in to last week's. I hope you'll enjoy this week's edition.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do, Steph, is just talk very briefly, first of all, if you can give people a bit of a timeline of your education journey. So talk about primary, secondary and further. So if you can just give a bit of an intro to that, that would be great.
Well, I was born in 1993, so my education started in the late 90s, 98, 95 actually, because I was 2 years old. So I started off my educational career in in a special school. It was called Fox Denton in Oldham in Chadington. It's now called Kingfisher. And there I learned basic life skills, potty training, how to things like that. And then from the ages of 8, I transitioned from to mainstream school in 2001. So I attended a mainstream school and I taught into primary. First I started attending there 1 day a week on a Wednesday, and then I attended full time. And then I went on from primary school, went on to carry on my journey in mainstream education. Went on to high school for 5 years, from 2004 to 2009, where I did all my GCSEs in SATs. And then I went on to further education. So I had 3 years at college, where in total I did my first year at Holy Cross College was my BTEC level 2 diploma in business and finance. And then in my second year at Holy Cross, I did theology and philosophy A level, first century Judaism, about Plato's analogy of the cave, the prime mover, Thomas Aquinas, Rene Descartes. And then so that was from 2009 to 2011, and then from 2012, when I was 19, I went on to further college, Berry College, and studied travel and tourism.
Excellent. So you've really done a lot, Steph, with your education. So
yeah.
What's your favourite moment or your favourite experience during your time in education?
Well, this bit, but it's hard to pinpoint from just one, because for me there's been so many triumphal moments and so many little victories, so I've narrowed it down to just 5. So the first one is obviously sitting my A-levels in theology and philosophy. Then my second was the transition from special school to mainstream school. My third one was being the first person in my class and the only disabled person in my primary school to go to an overseas trip to Paris in France when I was about 11 years old. We did Disney and stuff, although I was left out a lot by my peers and stuff. And then my fourth one would be to my first year at Holy Cross as part of the enrichment week, because all lower 6 students got the opportunity to take part in enrichment activities, and one of their activities was a trip down to London, where we got to see some West End shows, Oliver and Avenue Q, and again I was the only disabled person to go down to that trip, and that was the first time where I felt properly accepted by peers and staff. I felt included. I could go on to we explored Covent Garden, going on the London Eye, and then my first one was when I was doing my travel and tourism course when I was about 19. I secured a voluntary job in a travel agent where I give back twice a week. So I give back from 1 and 2 to 6 p.m. on a Friday. I finish college at 1 p.m. on the Friday and then go on to the voluntary job at the travel agent. And then I would also do it on a Sunday as well, 11 till 5, although I did get a lot of prejudice there as well, which I'll go on to in a further question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it, Steph? Because you're such a lovely people's person, but you've stated there that when you went on your trip to Paris, you were you suffered from some prejudice from your peers. And how did that make you feel at the time?
Well, it made me feel being left out and like, you know, I was invisible and I was not included in anything. I was just left hang around with the staff. But like I've always said, like with the Butterfly Princess, you know, and with the time that I was like during my travel agent voluntary job, you know, I was giving up my 2 days a week, 1.5 days a week, where I got that off my own back. You know, I didn't have any support, you know, because I was very determined, you know, to get some first-hand real experience.
Yeah.
And when I heard that some customers had said to the managers of that travel agency, you know, why have you got a disabled person working here? But that was a real knockback. But it's again, like as you referred to last week, the time of like the Butterfly Princess and why I've become whenever people underestimate me now in the past and present and maybe the future, I just think of the time when I was abused and I was that little girl in the bathroom, you know. There's times when I'm always thinking about that little girl in the bathroom where I think back to that how I was back then and from how I am now. I'm just showing that little girl and to the world and whoever will listen to my message how far that little girl in the bathroom is coming, how she's grown into a confident butterfly.
Absolutely. And I think as everyone goes along their life journeys, we all take knocks and we all take different challenges. And it's how you deal with those. And you really have got a massive, fantastic ethic for and a principle for whatever challenges you come up against, you'll overcome them and it will make you stronger. And that certainly looks to be the case, which is incredible, really admirable. So just going back to sort of your school life, can you remind people what support you did need whilst you were at school, Steph?
So I had a scribe where, because I couldn't write because of my spasticity in my fingers and hands due to my cerebral palsy, I couldn't write. So I had to have a scribe in like lessons with me where I would dictate everything that needed to be written, including punctuation, where this had to go. And so I needed extra time in exams. But as like technology progressed, you know, I did get access to, it was called an Alpha Smart, which was like a mini computer where you type things and then it will get printed off. And then as technology progressed even further, I had access to a laptop and stuff.
Okay, so were you taken into a separate room with your scribe when you had to do it like that to be able to dictate what you needed to have written down?
Not in the lessons, but in exams I did, and people actually thought I had an unfair advantage because, you know, like I had a member of staff with me and probably they thought they were helping me, but that wasn't the case for me. I felt like I had an extra workload where it's not only thinking of what to write and how to word it, but it was also, you know, telling the scribe what to write and, you know, how to spell words and like where to put the different punctuation marks. So it was double the work.
Absolutely, but we're always going to get narrow-minded people in society that do that. So, and you've just overcome that. It's another thing that you've overcome. So, and not been battered down by it, which is incredible. Obviously, in today's society, we everyone has the right to an education. How do you feel, and how important is it that everyone does have easy access to an education, irrespective of ability or disability?
Well, obviously, I did a bit of research about this, and obviously I think it's very important that everyone has access to an education, because like even like 40, 50 years ago, you know, disabled people or people with SEN didn't have that freedom to have an education. You know, they were locked away in institutions, and, you know, they were put in asylums, and especially since we're coming up to this current thing with the pandemic, with the COVID and stuff, that's really highlighting the gaps in education, especially because like the schools have been shut and there's been a lot of homeschooling, but it's even been harder for people with SEN because they've fallen even further behind, and it's just highlighting the more support they need in order to catch up, not just for people with SEN, but for people who are like from poorer backgrounds, people who are just slowly starting life. So it's really important for anyone of any ability or any background to have that access to education, because these people are going to be like future doctors, future nurses, future biologists, so they are setting the stepping stone for future generations.
And everyone should be given the same opportunities to be able to achieve and achieve the outcomes that they want, and that they're able to achieve in their life. And whether that's with support or not, you know, everyone deserves that right. So just looking back to your own experience and obviously knowing education as it is today, what changes do you think need to happen that could benefit children, young people, specifically those with SEND?
Well, I think that there needs to be a bit more understanding that like every educational need and disability is different, not every individual with an educational need or a disability is the same. So whenever someone wants to, with an SEN or a disability, wants to like study A-levels, they should be encouraged to do so, not be discouraged. And obviously, when I was at school and throughout my education, and I had that a support worker, and they were sort of like my shadow, and like they were always with me constantly. I just think, you know, we need to encourage that independence so that people with SEN and disabilities can build on relationships, build on friendships, and prepare them for the big wide world. I obviously feel that if I hadn't made that transition to mainstream school at the ages of 8, that I wouldn't be the sort of person I am today, because I do feel like special school would be sort of cocoon you, and it's all right for people who are very severely disabled and may not be able to cope with the demands of mainstream education. But for those people who can cope with the mainstream education, such as myself, then they should be encouraged, and it should be celebrated to make that transition, and make that transition as smooth and helpful as possible.
So really having that early intervention at a very young age to enable you then to potentially transition back into mainstream is potentially a really good option that should be further explored.
Yeah.
Okay, fab. So we've talked about the support workers and how invaluable that was to you in your schooling life. So can I just ask, Steph, what would be your message to anyone that is considering a career working as a support worker, working in special education to support children and young people who do have additional learning needs? What would be your message to them?
My message would be, you know, to work within the special educational needs and disabilities industry, it takes a certain person with a certain characteristics. So you've got to be understanding, patient, you know, be a lot of encouragement and supportive. But you've also got to be prepared to have, you know, them proper grown-up conversations, which I'll talk about more in week 4 when we talk about transition to adulthood, especially when it comes to hormones and relationships, and you know, people with SEND and disabilities may want to talk to you about them things. So it's about being supportive, but it's also about having the encouragement and determination, you know, to make that step to have a career in the SEND industry, because you don't know how much of a positive impact that you will have on that child or young person's life, and that early intervention will really help that person with the SEN or the disability thrive, and it will encourage them to live a full, independent, ambitious, and, you know, fulfilling life going forward.
Absolutely. Powerful stuff, Steph, and spoken from the heart and from your own experience, which is just wonderful to capture. So thank you. So I think from that, I think we can really say that we just need to embrace that everyone is different. We need to really focus on encouraging and not discouraging, and look at how support workers help prepare individuals for the big wide world out there, and look at the positive impact that being a support worker can actually have on the lives of children and young people, and really directly impact on their outcomes, and what they're able to achieve in life, irrespective of ability, disability. It doesn't matter. So I think there's some really good takeaways there, Steph, that I think we can pass on to individuals. So I'm really looking forward to next week, because we're going to be exploring how important it is to you to access the community, and the support you potentially need to do that. So looking forward to that one, and we'll see you then, Steph. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you everyone for listening.